On March 11, 2025, suspected vandals destroyed 4 transmission towers, T171 to T174, along the Owerri-Ahoda 132 kV double-circuit line, leading to significant power outages in Bayelsa and parts of Rivers State. The incident disrupted electricity supply to the Ahoda, Bahrain, and Yenagoa 13 kV transmission stations, affecting the entire Bayelsa state and portions of River State. This act of vandalism is part of a troubling trend. Between January 9 to 14, 2025, over 18 transmission towers were vandalized across Rivers, Abia, and Kano states, exacerbating the challenges faced by Nigerians. Power grid. The Transmission Company of Nigeria, TCN, has condemned these acts, highlighting their detrimental impact on efforts to establish a reliable transmission grid. Residents in the affected areas are experiencing prolonged blackouts, underscoring the urgent need to enhance security measures to protect critical power infrastructure and ensure a stable electricity supply. The disruption of electricity supply to Bayelsa and parts of River State is our focus today. Welcome to Nigeria Today. I am Ikaria Clinton. Now, with me in the studio for the conversation is Eket Ubunga. He's Executive Secretary, Consumers Advocates of Nigeria, and Lead Director, Energy Consumers Consultancy Services. Thanks for joining us on Nigeria Today.
Thank you for having me, and good evening.
Also joining us via Zoom is Engineer Olis Nagbo. Is the MD Bayelsa Electricity Company Limited. It's a pleasure to have you on Nigeria Today.
Thank you very much for having me.
Okay, I will start with you, Kemena Nagbo. Please talk to us about the situation in Bayelsa State regarding the blackout that the state is experiencing due to the acts of the vandalism.
Thank you very much. You may recall that about 29th of July 2024, we lost about 19 towers to that collapsed and which rendered the entire Bayelsa state and just a little part of River State in darkness. We worked collaboratively with the Transmission Company of Nigeria to get these towers rehabilitated and power was restored. Even after the power was restored, we traced the lines and discovered that most of the members that are brazing the particularly vertical columns of the towers.
Okay, please, Engineer Olis, please adjust your camera a little bit so that we can see your face, because as you were talking, yes.
Okay, so we already saw that most of the base brazings were cut off, and therefore we alerted the Transmission Company of Nigeria, and they hurriedly rehabilitated all those ones between Ahoda and Yenagoa. Unfortunately, they continued patrols between Elele to Ahoda and probably Owerri and Ahoda, and saw that most of these base brazings were all cut off. But probably they are overwhelmed with the level of vandalization, so they did not immediately take steps to replace the vandalized brazings. And that was the reason why we had those 4 towers collapse between the Big Elele and then the Army Barracks in River State. And that is the only line that supplies between supply power to Yenagoa and Ahoda. The line radiates from Owerri to Ahoda to Yenagoa. The 2 transmission substations in Yenagoa derive their supply from this double circuit 132 kV transmission lines. Unfortunately, even if one collapses, what it means is that we are not going to have supply between Awoda and Owerri. And I don't know how the state government will continue to collaborate with the TCN to ensure that the entire line is protected. For the areas where the vandalization took place that rendered Bayelsa State into darkness for about 4 months, we were able to deploy surveillance cameras that are alarm and lighting systems in the night. So once you get close to the place, the surveillance cameras will beam you and then blow an alarm. And then in our control rooms, we get direct communication with that particular tower, which is what we have been doing all along. We suggested the same to TCN, and I hope that they will be able to take proactive steps to ensure that they do something to restrain this vandalization, particularly between Awoda and Yenagwa, where Yenagwa, Bayelsa State, derives its power supply.
Very much, Engineer Olis, for that information. Now, Eket, you've heard what Engineer Olis said about the situation in Bayelsa State and, of course, some parts of River State. And, of course, you know, we've had this kinds of situation over and over again. Even last year, we had something like that in the north, where the Shiroro, Manda, Kaduna line was, you know, vandalized and all of that. So, talk to us. Why do we keep having these kinds of situations?
Well, thank you very much. Once again, my name is Uket Obonga, not Eket. Okay. Eket is a town in Akwa Ibom. Okay. Yes, it's very unfortunate, very, very unfortunate that this is a recurring decimal in the power sector, in the industry. And nothing seemed to be concretely done, you know, to mitigate or stop it. It will continue. Vandalism will continue. Why? If you look at a tower, the columns, a meter of each column costs nothing less than 40,000 naira. The crossbars. So if you measure the number of meters in each, you know, in each door, that is the attraction. The people who go to vandalize, harvest this iron or steel bars or columns, they are marketing them. Where are the security operatives in the country? The, how do you call it, NSCDC or something like that, Civil Defense Corps, statutorily is saddled with the responsibility of protecting natural infrastructure, power infrastructure inclusive. The police, they are there. The military, they are there. Air Force is there. Army, there. Let us assume the Navy, their work is in the high seas. So, and the economic situation in the country, you know, the poverty, unemployment, joblessness, we have an army of youths that are all over the place.
But is that a door for somebody to steal?
But, they say an idle mind is what? The devil's workshop. And wherever you have this, a nation finds itself in this state, then insecurity, this is part of insecurity, will thrive.
Okay, thank you very much for that for that line of thought. Now we go back to Engineer Olis. Now talk to us about how this has affected the lives of the people in Bayelsa State. What is it like, you know, with this situation, with this current situation of you know, electricity? What is the situation like?
Oh, definitely. Economic and social life will now be a thing of the past, because it will affect economic life, it will affect social life, and indeed security as well, because light provides security. Now, what I want to agree with my colleague in the studio there with you is the fact that yes, these things are actually of economic value, but we can also stop these people from doing what they are doing by simply deploying both technical and then human restraint. Like I said, the towers that are between Okogbe and Yenegua, we have deployed smart cameras that are very close to the line, so you cannot even go and bring down those cameras to do whatever thing you want to do. And the cameras are so sensitive that as soon as you get close to them, they begin to blow an alarm. And then that alarm is sent to our control center and also to a couple of us that are connected to it through our telephones. And therefore, all you need to do is to shout at the person that is on the base there, and then it will go through the cameras to the person's hearing that if you don't get out of that place, we have security people around, or we are alerting security persons to ensure that they go there quickly. It may interest you that within this period, we have been able to apprehend a couple of them. One of them was running, and unfortunately, he fell inside a pit, a borrowed pit, and drowned and died. So if human restraint is a difficult thing, then we have to deploy technical restraint and ensure that we have a control center where these things are holistically viewed, just like what has happened in Bayelsa State. Assuming this thing had happened very close to Bayelsa State or in Biama or wherever, we would have been able to avert it. But what we saw between Elele and the army barracks there is as a result of probably not going to immediately replace the stolen tower members. Otherwise, those courts we saw were old courts. They were not new courts. But because of the inability of the transmission company to quickly go and replace the tower members that are brazing the straight columns, they collapse under vertical and horizontal weights. So that was the reason, one. And then secondly, like you asked, currently, I believe that the economic life and social life in Bayelsa State will go back to square one.
Okay, before I let you go, Engineer Olisi, you talked about some of them being apprehended as a result of the maybe the cameras that you deployed there. Now, for the places that this vandalism took place, has there been any form of arrests? Has any consequences? Has anybody actually been punished for this act?
Well, this particular place is actually right in the heart of Bayelsa River State, and therefore, it is only through collaboration between Rivers and Bayelsa State that anything we will be able to even effect any arrest, and particularly because it affects Bayelsa State directly. Because anytime it happens, the entire Bayelsa State is darkness. That is the reason why we have always tried to intervene. We made some arrests, and then they were sent to Zone 16. For prosecution, and I think the Attorney General of Bayelsa State was able to take over the case, and therefore it is a case between the Attorney General of Bayelsa State and the criminals. However, the justice process in this country, I don't know where it is now, but currently is being prosecuted. One person was arrested on the 25th of January 2025, and then the person is still cooling down in the police cells in Yenegua, Zone 16.
Thank you very much. Now, okay, back to you. You said earlier on that that some of these, because of the economic value of these installations, of people tend to go and vandalize them, But then, people also buy from these people. There are also Nigerians that buy from these people. Is there no way that this trend can be stopped? Talking about, preventing people from buying this stuff. Because if they don't have buyers, some of these things won't take place.
Yes, you are very right. Take a cue from what happened here in Abuja where the manholes in all the roads and streets in Abuja were removed and sold. If the security operatives in this country want this thing to stop, it will stop. If the political leadership are determined to stop it, it will stop.
So what can they do?
What can they do? There's technology. Deployment of technology. We are living in an era where technology, you don't need to, what they are doing, when there's vandalism or something happen, then people will be going up and down, they say they are monitoring. No, you don't do that in this modern era. And besides, when you look at the terrain, where these things are, where these lines go through, the vegetation, some swamps, you have to go through streams, they go into forests. Who can do that in the old NEPA of yore, they had helicopters. Are you aware that there were helicopters owned by NEPA to monitor these lines, these grid lines, before? Are they still there? If we don't go the way of helicopter, there's what they call Internet of Things monitoring system that can monitor the grid lines all over the towers. What of the use of drone detection systems? Drones that are equipped to monitor. What of tamper-resistant electronic security devices? Tamper detection. This protects. Like what he said, mere going close, an alarm is raised. A particular tower that is being tampered with, or that is about to be vandalized, a signal is sent. And immediately, if there is proper coordination, drones are set, the Air Force are there, security agencies are. We won't suffer these things. We are not serious. We don't want to. I'm not sure the government of the day is willing. But now, when you talk of costs, the cost implications on the nation, how much does it cost to replace, repair these towers? The strings, what of the aluminum conductors that are being carted away? These are not materials you put in your pocket. If you go through that road, they are talking Owerri axis, Port Harcourt, Bayelsa, that axis. Every 200 meters, you find a police checkpoint. The people who are carrying these things are the spirits.
Okay, thank you very much.
It's failure on security on the part, the failure of security agents who are not willing to do their jobs, because the government of the day, like I said in the beginning, if government want to stop this, they can stop it.
But then you agree with me that even the security operatives are also doing their best, just like you said. You said technology.
But their best is not good enough. They are doing their best. We admit. I know I'm talking on television. Their best is not good enough. If their best is good enough, they can stop it.
But then, you've also mentioned something that is very germane to this conversation. You talked about technology, which is very, very important. Now, Engineer Oles. Now, earlier this year, the Minister of Power, Adebayo Adelabu, talked about the Shiroro Manda technology. He said about over 9 billion naira has been, spent to restore the transmission tower in that axis. Now, talk to us. How can we be proactive in trying to ensure that our transmission lines are safeguarded? Because, we can't keep having this on and on when we want uninterrupted power supply.
Look, it's a simple thing to deploy. I think both human and technical restraint is what will stop this. And then particularly to ensure that the markets that receive these things are closed down. In Bayelsa, what we have done so far is to close down the scrap metal market in Bayelsa State, which they call dump yard. And then people steal all these and go to sell in that place. The government has closed that scrap market. And then the second thing we did, like I've continued to echo, is the deployment of surveillance cameras that have real-time transmission of information to a control center. And then the next one again is that whoever that is buying anything from Bayelsa State in particular, and then it has a relationship with electricity, you must get clearance before you move these things out of the state. All the stores have been ransacked, and then they have been given notices. And to that extent, the state government set up an anti-vandalization committee headed by a retired assistant commissioner of police. I think she is even a retired commissioner of police. And so we have been able to provide the human restraint and then the technical restraint. The constraint we have is that these things don't happen right in Bayelsa State. They happen in outside Bayelsa State. And for us to go and even effect any arrest, we will need to collaborate with the police command in River State before we are able to arrest. For in Bayelsa State, I can assure you that tower vandalization has become a thing of the past because of the technical and human restraint that we have applied. And I expect that the federal government and then other power asset owners deploy same method, because like my friend said, it's almost impossible for you to be going through this terrain to be monitoring this, even if you are 100 persons. You may only manage to do that at a particular time, and this will definitely go when they know that you are asleep. But the cameras don't sleep. They are armed with solar systems, so they don't even die. They have a 5 years lifespan before anything can happen. And therefore, if that is done, and then once there is one or two brazen caught, and then it is reported, I expect the transmission company of Nigeria to go to these places to immediately replace those brazens. These ones that collapsed, like I said, did not happen yesterday or day before yesterday. When we saw the edges, they are all rusted, and it means that it would have been a long time ago. And if they were proactive instead of being reactive, I hear they have deployed some security persons and they are paying 400,000 naira for a month to secure the conductors that are on the ground. If they had spent that 400,000 naira that they are paying now to replace those brazens, I'm sure these towers will not collapse. And there are still a few of them that are still like that with the base brazens already cut. They are not therefore held by that. They cannot only be held by their vertical braces. Those lattice braces are the ones that strengthen and stabilize the towers against winds, which is horizontal, and then loads that may come from lumbering that will hit the transmission lines. Unfortunately, we talk all of this, and at the end of the day, they will only say they are going to do it, and we go back to sleep. So I think that if these three measures that I've mentioned are deployed, we will be able to restrain this to a reasonable extent.
Engineer, even though we don't really have that fact about the payment you just mentioned, we don't have the fact now, so we really cannot say much about it. Now, Uke, tell us, what would be the role of the community? Because however you look at it, these vandalism take place in a community, and people are there. You know, some community members are there. So what would be the role of the people there to avert situations like this, where people go and vandalize infrastructure that will affect them as people too?
Yes, the community or Nigerians generally should take this issue of vandalism seriously, because it affects everybody. Every one person is affected. You heard what the engineer in Bayelsa State said. He said within the state. These things are not done within communities. They go into the forests, where even the villagers have not gotten access to. They go there. They can be there throughout the day. In fact, it's not even by night they do it. They go there during the day.
But they bring these things back to the community.
They bring it to
and people see them.
So the community members and the public, general public, should be on the alert. And that is why we need to create awareness. The Ministry of Power and other agencies of government, we have to, create awareness.
And stakeholders like you.
Yes. And stakeholders to create awareness. You can set up an anti-vandalism unit in the police force, in the military, and so forth, and equip them. There is what is called power line vandalism detector, which uses high voltage transmission line and anti-tampering devices.
Thank you very much.
Anti-tampering devices. Before you get there, it stops you. You become proactive.
Thank you very much, Uket. That was Uket Obunga, Executive Secretary, Consumers Advocates of Nigeria, and Lead Director, Energy Consumers Consultancy Services. Thank you so much for your time and your contribution. And also we had via Zoom engineer Olis Kemenanabo, MD, Bayelsa Electricity Company Limited. Thank you so much for sharing your perspective with us. And thank you for being part of the program. I am your carrier, Clinton. Goodbye.